Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Accent Training Podcast. My name is Pat. I'm your personal American accent coach, and I'm here to see that every proverb, every book, every byword that belongs to thee for aid or comfort shall surely come home through open or winding passages. This is a quote from Ralph Waldo Edison, an American essayist. It's to say every piece of knowledge that you need in your life is something that belongs to you. It's there for aid and comfort, and that it will come to you through open or winding passages. My friend, I want to see that knowledge comes to you by telling you about a list that the Accent Training Podcast has been included in. This is a list of the 30 best podcasts to learn American English. Now, I'm not going to spend my time right now reading every single name of every podcast to you, but I'll tell you what. The podcast that you're listening to right now is number 9 on that list, which is quite a compliment, and it makes me proud to be able to share the great news of this list with other people. I'm sure many of you listening follow a few different podcasts and maybe waste a bit of time going through podcasts that you don't enjoy on the journey to find the podcasts that you do enjoy. So here's what we're going to do, my friends. I'm going to put the link to this list in the description of this episode. It's a fantastic list. The 30 best learn American English podcasts worth listening to in 2023. So if you're working on learning American English, check out the description of this episode and get your hands on this list. Let me read you the description of some of these top podcasts listed here so you can decide how they sound to you. Number 1, we have English in a Minute. Voice of America, Learning English. They put out 1 episode a week. It says a short video explaining an expression used in American English. It's pretty valuable information, I'd say. Podcast number 2, Happy English Podcast. Learn American English idioms, phrasal verbs, pronunciation, confusing vocabulary, grammar, and more. Happy English Podcast will provide fun, practical, and useful grammar lessons for students on all levels and ages. That's good news. 1 episode a week, average episode length, 8 minutes. Pretty good resource. Number 3, Learn American English with this guy. And there's a picture of a guy. He's got a beard, and he's wearing a hat. The description says, if you're looking to improve your English, this podcast is for you. An American who speaks English slowly so you can understand. They put out 3 episodes a week, and the average episode length is 59 minutes. That's quite a bit. That sounds like a really cool resource. If you're working on a particular sound, like the ah, or an, or ah, check out this guy's podcast. Learn American English with this guy. Podcast number 3 on the list. Sounds pretty cool. Podcast number 4 on the list says, Generally American, a journey in American English. Let me read you the description. Welcome, everyone. This is a podcast for those wanting to learn about U.S. culture through standard American English, also known as General American. We talk about various different topics related to the U.S. and the U.S.'s relations with other countries. My co-host and I would like to think of this as more of a journey because you never know where it'll take us. Plus, since the journey's more important than the end of the start, we hope that you'll be willing to join us. They release 1 episode a month, average length, 46 minutes. Nice, long episode to get some solid practice in if you're working, again, on a particular sound that you're trying to improve with. You want to listen and repeat how native English speakers use it. This is a resource to do that most effectively. Podcast number 5 on the list is the All Ears English Podcast, I've had a few students tell me that they listen to this podcast regularly, and they say it's good. So if you haven't heard of it, let me tell you about it. Are you looking for a new and fun way to learn American English? Come hang out with Lindsay and Michelle from Boston and New York City and have fun while you improve your English listening skills. We are an English as second language podcast for intermediate to advanced English learners around the world. We will show you how to use everyday English vocabulary and natural idioms, expressions, and phrasal verbs, and how to make small talk in American English. They produce 6 episodes a week, average length 21 minutes. That's a lot of work.
Like 6 episodes a week, 21 minutes an episode? That is serious dedication. Check out the All Ears English podcast. It sounds like these ladies have some serious material for you to learn from.
Podcast number 6 on the list is called Advanced English. At Advanced English, we teach you to speak English fluently and confidently through real-world English conversations and the exploration of American English culture. Our goal is to improve your fluency, confidence, and clarity when speaking English. I like that because you're learning about culture. If you're traveling to the States, if you're a newcomer, or maybe even you've been living in the country for a couple of years, there are likely things about the culture that are going to take you by surprise now and then.
I've spoken once on the podcast how I imagine Halloween must seem to newcomers, especially people with a more religious or conservative background. You all of a sudden see all of this occult imagery and what looks like death worship and what looks like things that may be a little bit frightening if you don't understand the context of it. I won't get into detail now, but I mean, that's just one example about how culture has a huge role to play with our communication skills. So
when you listen to podcasts that teach about culture, you'll have an easier time adapting to those situations. Advanced English is podcast number 6 on the list. Check it out. Next up is called Words and Their Stories. Words and Their Stories programs explain idioms and expressions that many learners of American English find difficult to understand. They put out 1 episode a week, and it's about 6 minutes long. Podcast number 8 on the list, Daily Funny Word History. A funny English podcast worth checking out. That's going to be entertaining, right? A fun daily podcast that will help expand your vocabulary knowledge, learn common English colloquialisms, useful words, definitions, origins, and examples of how to use them in English. American English is full of very weird words, expressions, phrases, and slang. But how often do we use a word without knowing what it really means or where it came from? Words like ghetto, funk, stool, pigeon, or kick the bucket. The Daily Funny Word History podcast puts out 5 episodes a week. Average length, 2 minutes. Short and sweet. They get right to the point. Check it out.
And podcast number 9 on the list is the Accent Training Podcast.
What you're listening to right now. The description says, welcome to the Accent Training Podcast. This is a podcast where I provide you with the tools needed to improve your use of the American accent and boost your spoken English communication skills. I want to make sure that you can hit the ground running when it comes to learning the American accent. My name is Pat. I'm an accent coach and an online course creator. It says I put out 1 episode a week, which is not exactly true, and that the average episode length is 14 minutes. True. And that's it. I just wanted to read up till I was on the list. There are some pretty good podcasts on the list that come after me. I just don't have time to read through each and every one of them at the moment. So we'll get to wrapping this one up. I started this episode out thinking to myself, I'll just tell these folks about the list and how good it is. But you know what? I changed my mind halfway through. Do you ever do that? You start a task and you think, you know what? I'm not going to be lazy here. I'm not going to just do half the job that I'm capable of. I'm going to give it 110%. That's what I did today. That's what I did right now, reading out the first 9 episodes on the list. So check it out. Don't worry. I'm not jealous. I know that there's no podcast out there that's going to replace the Accent Training Podcast in your heart. I'm not worried about that. What I want is that every proverb, every book, every byword that belongs to thee for aid and comfort shall surely come home through open or winding passages.